Right, let's get to it. Too afraid to ask, too lazy to Google. Welcome to No Idea, yeah! I'm today's host, Johnny. Would you like to welcome Freddie
Oh yeah, I'm also hyped. Yeah.
and Alistair
Hi guys.
to the show? We're gonna find out the subject. We're gonna chat about it, what we think we know, and then we'll go away for a week, discuss, research it, and then we'll come back again to discuss our findings and hopefully learn something along the way. And the topic for this week is going to be electric cars and furthermore vehicles.
No. You
Tesla truck.
can't expand it to vehicles in general. Or do you mean electric vehicles?
Electric vehicles, yeah, it's really battery operated vehicles, but electric cars is that's going to be the main thing because that's what everything's on, and then we'll just have a little sections off to talk about other things.
Take it away.
So the main thing, so I'll list the main questions, and then we can just chat about whatever. So is it first question, what are they? Second one, are they worth it? What is their CO2 output? And then also going into lorries and the effect of oil. Do you know what we were saying before about for the previous
electric
episode,
lorries?
Yeah, and do you know the Banana Republic and how it's an unsustainable produce of oil is such a huge thing. What happens if suddenly everyone goes electric? Yeah, you're still gonna have some of the big stuff, but not nearly as much. And then the other side would be dirty electric.
What do you mean dirty electric?
So, you can say, oh, look, I've got an eco-electric car, but you may have a coal plant powering it. So it's kind of you're just trading one for another of unsustainable
coal
fuel.
plant powering the car? You mean the coal plant makes the fuel to make the car?
Well, yeah, so where you get your electricity off the grid is where electricity is being produced from. So you could say, yeah, everyone's running electric, but we only have coal factories, coal power plants in the area. So technically everything's running off more coal. So yeah, you've got less petrol, but you've got more coal. So that's what dirty electric means. So you could say, yeah.
Doesn't that also cover the amount of emissions and everything that happen when you actually make the battery and make the car itself? Right?
Well, this is it, because I was saying about what's the CO2 output, because I'm sure this was when the Prius came out, and it was that to make a Prius, the lifetime of the car, say over 10 or 15 years, would actually have a higher output just making it and running it than a diesel engine would over 15 years, in the fact of how. So it could be that that's not the same anymore because stuff's easy. I don't know, but so this is part of what we're going to want to look at. So I guess my question to you guys now is, in the UK we've got 2030 is going to be the ban of all combustion engines, and 2035 for hybrids for cars and vans, so those two specifically. Do you think this is a good idea? Do you think it's too late? Do you think it's not soon enough? I mean, too late or too soon?
I mean, I think it could be done in a very short period of time if it was done properly, and I don't think it will be, right? If this actually was beneficial, which again, now you've said it, I'm not sure, and it's if you figured out how to subsidize the cost of the electric cars and put in the infrastructure of the electricity, and also somehow deal with. Have you ever thought about how many cars are on the road? When you go trying to look for parking, and you're looking for parking, and you're how many people have bought their car here, and what are you, I can't get over it. So I don't know what they're going to do with all these
that
cars.
is just how motorways never stop. They're 24/7. There's never quiet. It's never no cars on a motorway, right? Obviously it's quieter at night.
They're all going somewhere.
They're always there, and they're always yeah.
I've got a cool thing. My mum said when I think her parents, when the first near their area, one of the first motorways was built, and do you know the centre reservation, just where the grass is? They said they used to go and have a picnic on the motorway because it's just oh, look, a new really big road, and it's just empty, of course. So you'd sit in the centre in the grass and just having a picnic. How mad's that idea? Whereas now,
Probably think a better place to have a picnic than the central reservation where it is. Oh, I love these strawberries. What have you done with these? Oh yeah, just
strawberries are berries,
Oh,
no, but imagine. Would you ever cross a motorway? I'm just trying to think if I had the balls, even if I couldn't see any cars.
Play
coming.
Frogger, mate, and get yourself in the zone.
Yeah, to make it across the motorway. Maybe I could. Depends how wide it is.
Depends what time of day as well. Because can you imagine, like, do you know
Rush
when
hour's
like,
easy.
You get a lot, yeah, a lot of beeps, but yeah.
You just have to go past the first lane and then you can go really far over the other lanes.
Oh my god.
Get it?
I thought-
Spread across them. 'cause
If you ran that kind of an angle, I reckon people would kind of swerve out the way of you a bit, but it would be a bit dodge.
Mm.
I wouldn't probably
yeah, it
recommend
would
it.
be a bit dodge.
So,
But
okay.
yeah, so for electric cars, do you think that because one thing I saw, it was an article and it was about so England's having this
Just got the dodge pun. Nice one. My own pun. There you
yeah.
go. So different.
The UK's having this push for 2030 timeline, but there's no emphasis on building more electric car factories in the UK. So you're going to have nearly all of our cars will be imported. So you're going to have huge issues with that as well as it is. So it's kind of, yeah, as you were saying, Freddie, are we actually doing it correctly? You know, are we building an infrastructure for these electric vehicles we're all going to have when we're not, you know?
Yeah, I don't think so. Because like I'm here in Germany. I'm just gonna pop that in again, and I see like if I go to the city nearby, which is Munich, like I will see an fully electric car that I know is electric as well. Because some I don't realise it, I guess. Like new like e-tron this and Tesla that or whatever. Like I'll actually see one, maybe one in every 200 cars, maybe. Like and. I mean, I saw a lot when I was in Amsterdam, but then that was Amsterdam. People were trying to show off their Teslas. And this is Germany where I see a lot of electric parking. Like a lot. Like actually, I'm like, oh, I actually wouldn't struggle here to find parking for my electric car. Like went to a company recently to get some stuff sorted for the company I work for, and the company's car park had electric spots for. And I was like, that's like real talk. That's like getting it done, and it's still not even like near to 1% of the traffic. So
Yeah.
I have no idea how England would do it.
Well, because already like Tesco's, I think all of their car parks will have free electric charging points in them now, and you've got councils in Northumberland, at least in Alnwick, they've got free charging points just for it. You have to pay for parking, which is like £1 an hour or something like that. So you can think, I guess for a council, it would benefit you to have a charging point for free, so people come into your town and spend money. And I was chatting with a friend of like, what happens about, because you have a charging at home, that's the whole point, isn't it? What happens if you have apartment blocks? Where are you going to charge your car then? And then you realise, well, actually, I'm sure technology is going to get fast enough that you can probably charge a car in like 10 minutes to like 50% or 80%. And then, so you just use up petrol stations. You just, whatever.
But then you wait there for 10, 20 minutes?
So how long does it take you to fill up a car with petrol and go to the station and then come out?
Less than 20 minutes.
5 minutes to go in and out? So you just have to do 10 minutes and you just tap your card?
Today's technology where people are like itching to get places and do stuff. And also you'd have to make the petrol station bigger because people would be waiting with their cars in the spots, right? So you'd have to have more space. But
But as you've seen, they're in supermarkets, they're in random shops, they're just in the street.
Yeah, if while you're
Some
going to the
councils thought about lamppost charging.
I feel like horses might be a better idea. What do you reckon?
They don't do well with electricity.
No, electric horses, obviously. Yeah, you don't want these bloody ones that run on carrots, mate. There's some electric horses on the go, obviously.
But yeah, apparently it's a thing of like batteries. One thing is like it's lithium batteries. There's come up with constantly new technologies, so this is something to look up as well. The new technologies, because is lithium something which is actually going to be sustainable? It's precious metals you got to mine, stuff like that.
I'll give you a little side thought though that I can see is that I haven't been in England for a few years now, so I don't know. But in all the places I've been recently, there's a huge up of electric scooters, as in like just the stand-on ones, and the electric scooters, as in the like I don't know what you call it. It was like a moto scooter, a moped type thing, like that people use as their own, but also B have public ones where like people pick them up and drop them.
Public ones are getting huge in England as well now. Yeah, big cities.
Yeah, okay.
As well, yeah.
And like
but we can't have nice things in England.
I throw them in the
people,
rivers.
throw them. Yeah,
we reckon.
But it definitely works.
Such a pain of like Manchester. We had Mobikes, which is I think it's from it China or Shanghai where they had them.
they started.
They're like, cool, we use
Mobikes,
Manchester. They worked really well. Apart from like, people keep throwing them in the canal and trying to steal them, and they've got literally no value yet. People are still stealing them. I'm like, they had to get rid of it because we just can't have nice things because people are idiots.
That sucks. But I could see that being a way around the difficulty. Like maybe it's like they might do it where it's no combustion cars in cities or something. That's it. You just have to park your car outside the city and you take an electric car or an electric scooter or an electric whatever in all the transport
So
trains.
the thing is, that's all very well if all you're doing is transporting you somewhere, right? So like, I bought a car in the last few months and now since I've had it, would not be able to do what I've done like without it, i.e. like renovating a house, basically, right? So if you're like, oh yeah, no problem, I'll hold my electric scooter and then pop into town. If I just go in to meet a friend for coffee or something, yeah, no problem at all. Oh, I need to go buy, 4 square meters of floorboards. Oh, I'll just pop that on the back of my electric scooter, shall I?
That's true.
Would you thought to be effectively public transport only areas where it's either trains, electric taxis, scooters, walking, cycling, and then you leave your car elsewhere, and within a city limit, yeah, you can have like electric or like like cabs or something like that, but everything has to be is like regulated.
So if you do a week shop and you've got 3 kids, you have to take a taxi, right?
I was thinking, yeah, that's it. You week shop when you got kids, it's got to be a taxi, isn't it? or a tram.
Oh yeah, but I mean, still getting on to and off and like moving the bags.
And the biggest thing is people just love their cars too much.
People do love their cars.
I mean, have you seen the image of where it's like 30 people who take a bus or 30 people who take cars to work, and it's literally you've got like traffic lights and it's completely full, or with the bus it's literally one bus and everything's empty. It's just mad.
Yeah, but everyone had to bloody wait at the bus stop, mate, that morning, and everyone had to keep stopping everywhere, and it's
I have to wear my mask. No, I totally agree. Like, yeah, there's fixes, but also I'd stick with Alistair. Like, people love their vehicles. Like, it's their safe
so you're
space.
saying that combustion's okay then, and not to go electric?
Oh no, I haven't got a car. I'm just saying.
No, but you like so for but yeah, I guess one thing as well. I don't know how to look at it. It's just, do you know, like the whole. I remember in Archer there was a thing of where it was an episode. Obviously, it's Archer, isn't it? But of Lana's dad discovers a way to make fuel that isn't based on oil, that's completely eco, and the CIA is like, we'll pay you like millions of dollars not to share this because we have loads of like complex relationships with loads of countries which produce oil. Like, it's a huge commodity to have. So as we slowly go away from these things, as you're saying about the UAE who have loads of oil, suddenly you're going to take away a country which is like one of the wealthiest. Like, oh yeah, you're worth nothing now, but because the one commodity you had is now not one.
I feel like you told us this, Johnny, about this like hydrogen car or something like that, where it, and the guy invented it, and then they were like, oh no, it's kind of like so when you told us that before, was your source Archer?
Maybe.
No, I think they've had hydrogen cars before where they only produce water as like the excess. It's just a case that they can blow up. So they made hydrogen
exist
cars,
now.
but they're not safe enough. Well,
the problem is now. I mean, yeah, okay, yes, they can blow up, but that's not like it's not an issue. I don't think anymore. I think it's just mainly like there is zero like hydrogen fuel stations around. Like, the infrastructure is not there at all, I think, is the issue. But you could be right. It could be still a danger of explosion. I'm not sure. I'll have to research.
Well, I'll get some. So hopefully you've got a little bit down anyways. But so some questions to specifically ask are electric cars more eco than combustion cars now? And I guess look for modern ones, because we've had electric for quite a while now, but now we're getting into. It used to be cars would only have a 100-mile range. Now we're coming up to like 400-mile plus ranges, so they're getting better, and like Tesla's come out with more stuff all the time. And then one thing is hydrogen versus electric. Like, is there another type of car that's on the horizon or not? And then electric planes. What was that? One thought I had of like, wait, we're talking about like cars and like vans and like motorbikes. Get I think lorries will eventually be something when you get a big enough battery. I don't know. But then what about planes? Because they've got to be one of the biggest, like gulpy of oil and stuff. Will we ever get electric planes? Is that big?
Gulpy.
There was an interesting thing about Elon Musk. I was talking on his podcast I was listening to him about solar power and how it's not going to get any better. Like, how much energy we can get from the sun onto, like, it's all just about surface area basically. So that you're never going to have a solar powered car. It would need to stop, and then you'd have to have like a big thing that opened up, and then it could catch a lot. So it would be practical to that point if it was, especially if you were in like somewhere hot, following up. But you'd never be able to just have one that just drove along and.
But do you know what you can do with solar power? I found kind of interesting. as in, I say solar power as in the power from the sun, is if you concentrate it. Now, if you get really big mirrors and concentrate it onto a single spot and use it to heat something like water and use the water steam to move the generators.
Thermal energy.
Yeah, basically. It does work. I mean, it's just, I don't know if there's a problem. I'm not sure why that's not a thing. Maybe because it is super dangerous, so you have to like maintain it in a different way. But I mean, it heats stuff up really hot. like there's a video of someone putting like, I think it's maybe a meter squared of sunlight, and it melted rock. It's like, ow, okay. But I don't know why that's
could
not
maybe
being
use this.
feasible.
Yeah, I feel like, I don't know. That's a interesting one.
Yeah, that's mad. I mean, I always think it's hilarious thinking like nuclear energy. You always think like, oh man, they're using like the different atoms and electrons and kind of like firing stuff or whatever. No, just nuclear material's really hot, so then we just heat up water really hot, and then we make steam and turn fans. Literally, it's just steam engines, but with instead of coal, it's nuclear material.
It's
And it's
just so basic.
fancy about it.
Yeah, we're fine,
Yeah.
guys. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
I'm sure it is super complicated, but you know, it's not actually like it's just a hot
Yeah,
material.
we're not actually
heat up
taking the
water.
energy from the radiation and using it. We're taking the
thermal
hot.
energy. Yeah,
The hot.
this thing is hot. Like, I think it was in Russia. There was 3 hikers or something like that. They were lost in a blizzard, and they came across this huge metal container that was warm, and they're like, brilliant, it's warm, so they just huddled around it for the night. Turns out it was some like nuclear waste which had been dumped randomly in the middle of the woods, and lo and behold, one of them died from radiation poisoning, and the 2 like lost their skin or something like that. But yeah, nuclear's hot.
Nice. Well, there you go, guys.
So,
Can't
On
wait
that
to just fill up
little
my car with plutonium and stuff. It'd be nice.
Just gonna get loads of fire alarm detectors and take out all the little bits of nuclear material in them, and
yeah,
off we
don't
go.
do that.
Yeah, electric vehicles. So yeah, I mean, are we gonna have electric planes? Are we gonna have electric lorries? I mean, what's the situation? Where are you going with it? Is it worth it? Is it eco? Let's find out. Say dada.
Say, are we recording?
Oh, you talk to it. Say dada.
Dad,
Say mama. Say mama.
Mama,
Yeah.
Say electric cars. Part 1.
Say, lithium-ion batteries to the future.
Not really.
No, that's fine. Right. I'd like you to welcome us back to the show. So, let's get straight to it. Definition of an electric vehicle. It wasn't that surprising, to be honest. It was an electric vehicle. EV is a vehicle that uses one or more electrical motors or traction motors for propulsion. I mean, it's really self-explanatory. It's a vehicle which is electric. I mean, I don't know. As defined as you can go. And the questions I did ask you were, are electric cars more eco, hydrogen versus electric, and electric planes? And for an exciting thing, we've got somebody who is, well, Freddie, one of your guests, we've got recorded. So we're going to play that for you now. So, if Freddie, would you like to have a bit of an intro to him?
Yeah, I didn't realise we were jumping straight into it, but that sounds great. Yeah, we have an electrical engineer, automotive engineer, who's currently I don't want to jinx it, but about to work for the company who makes the electric motors for Ferrari. So, yeah.
You heard
So
it here
you've all
first,
heard this now.
before it
So
happened.
Yeah, car enthusiast and all-round great guy, Felix. And so, if you guys would be up for listening to a quick interview from him that I undertook the other day, he's going to explain his thoughts on electric cars.
It's
Okay.
about cars, I'm happy.
It's about cars, he's happy. Fair enough. Okay, first of all, basically it's just kind of misconceptions. When you chat to someone and they're like, oh, but aren't electric cars, like, they don't go anywhere and they don't hold charge and you haven't got enough power? Like, is that all
Yeah.
lies?
Yeah, it is, to be honest. I mean, modern electric cars that like have in pretty insane ranges. I mean, I watched slight tangent. I watched a video last night, and it was the new Porsche Taycan Turbo S Cross Turismo, which is their new 4x4 sort of Audi all-road, basically, of electric cars. And he was saying that you get a realistic range of 200 miles. And how often do people drive 200 miles?
Can you give a quick comparison of what like a standard car someone might be driving to work would have a range of?
That's tough because I drive a really stupid car with terrible fuel economy. But you'd be able to get 300 miles. It's more the fact that once you're out there, you know that you can just fuel up in like 10 minutes. And yeah, without fast charging. And if you don't have a Tesla, it's going to be a massive pain. Because that's a common thing at the moment. Like I listened to a podcast the other day of Chris Harris, absolute car legend. And he was like, yeah, a lot of people have on the show do actually really like their electric car, but they all drive Teslas, and they all have, they have designated points across the country. They've got loads of things. They've got like faster charging ones. Obviously, it's easier if you've got a Tesla, but if you're driving your like Nissan Leaf, 50 miles, it probably doesn't even make that.
Yeah.
So it's
What's the difference in like charging times? Because honestly, the most I know is about charging a phone with quick charge. Does it have like a burst to 30% type thing, or what?
That's tough. I think I've heard of like if you go cross country, you can sort of do a few stops of like 20 minutes.
Okay.
So maybe 2 or 3 stops if you're doing a really long journey, which I mean isn't too bad if you account for that.
Because do you think that's basically the biggest fear of people, isn't it? It's just that A, can't charge in places, and B, can't be bothered to wait.
Yeah, it's laziness, and then also it's just poor infrastructure, isn't it? How many you go to, some big petrol stations off the M6, and you've got like 10 pumps and like 2 chargers. Well, at the moment, that's the problem. You might have to wait. Yeah, when more cars come, you're gonna have to wait, but it's gonna get better, and I don't think it's illogical for people to be like, you should drive an electric car. I think there is sense to it.
Fair enough. I've got to ask, do you believe that in the UK, we're going to like, zone out petrol and diesel cars by 2040 or whatever?
Well, I think the law is like fully combustion engine by, 2035 or something.
No more being made or no more being sold?
Yeah, it's no more being made, I think. So that means you can still have hybrids. And I think Aston Martin Valhalla, some latest car was going to be some sort of little V6 thing, and now it's a V8, and they're producing that now. Like car manufacturers are getting around it. If they have like electric cars as well as their stupid high performance cars, they can counteract and still put out these performance cars because their overall emissions is less. Like Porsche, they're still like their GT3 is still naturally aspirated 4-litre flat 6, I think. So that came out this year.
Fair enough. I've got one other question before perhaps a tangent or whatever. Is, as an engineer / enthusiast, do you know anything about the argument between hydrogen power cells and lithium? Are we on lithium batteries for
Yeah, we are.
Yeah.
So from what I've read, it's very illogical to do hydrogen cars. Basically, it's the energy you get out of it isn't worth it in the long run, because I mean, it's an electric car, which is the electricity is made in the car by a hydrogen, like by the combustion or whatever of hydrogen. So overall, you might as well just have made the electricity and then put it into the car. And also, it's the pain of transporting hydrogen, and I think car manufacturers are generally sort of shying away from it at the moment. They want good electric cars, and another thing is like alternative fuels is still an option. If you can make a like lower emission alternative bio sort of fuel, they're going to have to make anyway, because you can't have electric planes. It's pretty unfeasible to have electric cruise ships, things like that. So like it's very likely, Chris Harris said it on his podcast, not that he's the god of all everything, but the one I listened to the other day, he was saying that alternative fuels is going to happen for those. So
fair enough.
X there, put it into a car.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think there's loads of possibilities. Like the tech is a bit crazy at the moment, isn't it? Like we never thought we'd have these like insane electric cars like 10 years ago. We never thought we'd have 800 horsepower all-wheel drive electric cars that could do 200 miles because they, switch everything off and you have no aircon and stuff like that, and they get some decent miles. So
Put the windows
I think-
up.
Yeah, just in a little hot bubble. I think the tech's coming in, and like the company I got that interview for, YASA, like they're making the electric motors like smaller and more efficient. So if they keep doing that, then hopefully there'll be more technology evolving with batteries, and then the cars will just be better in every way, and then no one will drive petrol cars for that sort of commuting. It'll be safe for the fun and the track and stuff like that.
No, well, thank you very much.
Okay, so we're back. That was Felix, thank you. So, there was some things for... The thing you said about the range is such a good point, because I know some cars are about 100-mile range, like the Honda E, and it's a bit scary having a 100-mile range. And when it's cold, it will reduce. So what is 110 in summer will go down to about 80. I think it's about a 30% decrease in your overall range during winter or something mad like that. It's quite large.
Is that just because you've got the aircon on blasting heat at you because all batteries work better than the car? But yeah, there was an issue with that. Obviously, all those tests are done with without the windscreen wipers on or without the heaters and stuff.
They don't work in the cold lithium batteries as well.
Really?
So I think when you're thinking like batteries, maybe it's more like because you should get less energy. So usually stuff works better when it's super cool, doesn't it? But so for electric cars in the cold, they don't work as well. I think it's because it's to do with they need a little bit of heat. So effectively, they sap energy from the battery. I don't know how it fully works, but you can assume you can knock off minimum 30 miles when it's in the cold.
Bear in mind, can I just say that cold is below 20 degrees, but that is not optimal for cars. As far as I researched, was about 21 degrees Celsius, which is 70 degrees Fahrenheit for you Yankees. So for going down below 20 degrees, it gets worse. Yeah.
Can I tell a very quick side note that you cannot... Actually, I found it today. It's nothing to do with electric cars, I'm afraid, but it is... You just reminded me. It's quite funny. It's basically a little news story. It's a little news story. Basically, it was about how iPhones do not show 69 degrees. And everyone was up in arms about it because they were like, oh, Apple's so anti-meme just, because they don't want to show 69 degrees. Like people were finding places in the world where it was 69 degrees and the Apple iPhone weather app wasn't showing it. And then basically it came out that everyone went pretty mad about it, and it turned out that actually it's just literally because they get their thing from Celsius and it's a rounding thing, so that when they change it from Celsius it either is 68 or 70, and the same is true of it's not 65. So yeah.
Oh, anyway. I thought you meant 69 degrees Celsius. I was like, where the hell are you, an oven? Okay, sorry. That'd be a cold.
In saunas, it doesn't work, but yeah, in the freedom heights of America. But yeah.
But do you think, say range of there's a new plug-in for the Land Rovers and Range Rovers, they're plug-in, so that's a plug-in hybrid. So you plug it into electric as well as filling it with petrol. And if you want to go pure electric, it's about 34-mile range. And when you think of that, you're like, that's absolutely nothing. That's useless. But in the UK, the average journey daily is about 20 miles. So realistically, the journeys you're doing in your car every day, you could actually start the day off, you'll do less than 34 miles, plug it back in the night, and then actually you've never needed to use a combustion engine at all.
You wouldn't even know, would you? Yeah.
Yeah, but the idea is, there's a term for it. It's called like charging anxiety or whatever. But it's realistically, and now cars are, even like pickup trucks are going up. There's Vivian and there's Hummer are bringing a new car out, and they're all plus 400 miles. So this is the same as a car. And infrastructure-wise, there are charging. If you look at a map, there are thousands and thousands in the UK. Other countries less so. Europe's not as good. Some countries in Europe, some are really good.
I read the UK ones are really annoying for like, you have to have a specific card for a lot of them, and that it's nothing like as universal as it could be. But obviously, like I said, the main thing about it, I think, is a big takeaway. Is it's very much in its infancy, right? It's not, it's a very new technology.
Something I found. Just to add to exactly what you're saying here is that this analogy doesn't mean any more than I hope you understand it. But if you're not disabled, you don't notice disabled access for places, right? And if you haven't got an electric car, you don't look for electric car spots. And so once you do, you're like, oh, right, they're here, here, and here. And then you actually put more effort into looking for them, or at least you notice it more where it is and isn't. And so the problem is that not enough people have electric cars, or not enough people know someone who has an electric car that has this issue, that you don't care. Does that make sense? So you're not paying attention, you're not actually pushing for places where you should have them. You're also not noticing where there are, but you didn't know that before. I mean, if that makes sense.
No, totally. I mean, And also, it's one funny thing of a friend of, I don't know if I mentioned it previously, of like, the worry is, what happens if you can't get a car charger at home? You know, what are you going to do? Well, like filling up your car with petrol, you don't do it at home. So, like, if you live in an apartment, it doesn't matter. And, well, one thing, I've got so much to say. First thing is, for the UK rules, is 2030 is ban the sale of and the new making of combustion engines, and 2035 is the end of hybrids as well. So by 2035, no new hybrids are allowed to be made. And it means they'll probably will still have second-hand sales. We'll still have cars. You know, there's 20-year-old cars still going out. So, and yeah, what was the other thing of? So new Tesla charging stations. They're just specific for Tesla. First is that they had their charging points as Tesla only. Now they've changed it to a Type 2 and a Type SSPS or something, which is like the fast charge. Now, so when you put it into a Tesla charging station, it's just software that stops you charging. Whereas now they're thinking about, they haven't specified which countries, but they're going to be opening up Tesla charging points to everyone now. So it's not specialized just to Tesla.
Imagine you went to charge your phone in a restaurant. They're like, no, you can't do that. It's like you plug it in. It's like, no. You've got an Android. You're not allowed to charge it here. You're like, oh, come on.
And for connected to a supercharger, the new Tesla Model S Plaid can take on 200 miles of range in just 15 minutes. So if you're able to go to Tesla, and you think going to a service station, if you've got to be in a queue, and obviously it's different, but like going to a petrol station, you know, you may be in a queue. It may take you about 10 minutes. Whereas if there's a free spot, you literally just drive up, plug it in, 15 minutes, you chill, maybe you go to a shop, and most of the time they're going to be in like car parks and whatever.
And if you've got Tesla, you've got a massive screen in it, you can do pretty much anything on.
Yeah, because that's what Felix mentioned, was that like the fear, right, is that you turn up, because the problem is that you have your current mindset. You turn up to a petrol station and they've got like 10 petrol pumps and they've got 2 charging stations. You just have to sit behind them. Plus you have to wait longer. Like it takes, obviously at the moment, longer to charge a car than it does to fill up with petrol. But yeah, he also mentioned in a bit that I kind of cut out, was that the Tesla Model S, which is their baseline version, is a lot, I mean, problem is Tesla is ahead of the game with this kind of thing, and it is a lot faster. Yes, some of the other models of electric cars out there from different brands aren't as fast yet, but in the future it's gonna be. It's gonna be. So
exactly. To quite an analogy, I just thought as well. Like I remember before I got like a smartwatch, the idea of charging it every day seemed really annoying. Of course, you don't charge a normal watch, and so you know, but it's something that I just completely got used to now. Yeah, Freddie, when was the last time you charged that up? I'm guessing
10 years ago.
But it's just not that big of a deal. Like you know, I think if you were like traveling, it might be a bit worse. Something, but like again, you just adjust to whatever you're doing, and it is like absolutely not an issue.
Yeah.
So yeah,
charging your phone though, like I mean, come on, you guys must have remembered having like the old brick phones, because we're that old.
2-week charge.
Yeah, it's like you charge it and then you send a few texts, maybe even turn it off at night. What is this blasphemy? Like, and then nowadays it's perfectly normal, and this is crazy. I remember like going to someone's house and someone's like, hey, have you guys got a charger like for your phone, at a stranger's house or a friend's house? Like that's now totally normal. In fact, it's so normal, I've been to houses where there's charging points with their like multiple leads waiting for you to just plug your phone in, because everyone needs to charge their phone, and that's it's more normal than asking for the Wi-Fi in some places.
No, you're totally right. Yeah, because you could always say like, yeah, completely right. Yeah, I'd say asking for a charger is less intrusive than asking for your Wi-Fi password.
I say what's slightly more intrusive is then you ask for that, and then you walk in with you drive your Tesla up to the front door, and then you walk in with your big Tesla charging nozzle.
Have you got a 3-phase plug I can chuck this onto? I don't even know. I don't actually know. I didn't even check actually. Do Teslas go for standard, or do you need to have like a 3-phase or something to plug it into? I actually don't.
In some places so if you want a fast charger at your home, you need to have a 3-phase, and usually Germany, so you're obviously doing electric stuff in Germany, Freddie, so it's quite common in Germany you have a 3-phase thing. So is it able to bounce up the energy dependent on the need for it or something like that?
Do you guys? I mean, I hate to kind of. Like
I know that obviously America's 120 versus the UK's 240, right? Because obviously that's a fairly different voltage, which is
that's a bit different. Do you guys understand what 3-phase is compared to 1-phase?
Nope.
What I do know is that for the fast chargers you need a 3-phase. Most UK houses don't have that even applicable to the area for your electricity. Most is the 1, so there's only a max you can usually have. But some
Freddie, flex some knowledge, man. You've got no idea.
Flex some. So basically, you know that AC is alternating current, right, and DC is direct current. I hope. maybe if you don't, fair enough. There's no harm in learning. So AC is that you have an alternating current generator, and it makes a current. Now you see, like, you can split that current into 3 wavelengths, 3 phases. Each of them is a third of the current, but at a different phase. They're at slightly different angles. The 3 of them are, so you know, a sine wave goes up and down, like this.
Yeah.
All 3 of them are going up and down, but slightly different, like this. This makes bad podcasting. But when you put all 3 together, it makes a flat line because it's a perfect current. So the best thing is that because each phase is a third of the current that you've produced, you've made a current, it's got wiggly lines, you can split those lines into 3, you give each house 1 or 2 of them because it's an easy way of splitting them up. I hope that makes sense to the audience. You just split up the 3 and you can give each house 2 because things like ovens or maybe like some washing machines require 2, which is extra power. But otherwise, most stuff just needs 1. And then the 1 is quite easy to make into a direct current, just make into a DC. But if you need all 3, you need the full strength of the generated current that's given to the area. That's a bit different because most houses are just supplied with 1 or 2.
Yeah,
I hope it makes
so the
enough
fast
sense.
charging, you need the full 3 because it's like a huge amount of power to do it so fast. Which most houses, they're like, why do you need that much power when they build a house? So they don't give it. So, is that right?
Yes, it's just that the problem is that you don't supply. The only reason you don't supply the houses with it is because they don't need it. Like, I mean, you like the voltage going across the lines outside is 440 volts. You don't need that. Like, I mean, your laptop charges on nothing. Like, it's like, what's the point in sending everyone like a ridiculous amount of power? It's literally like kind of food wastage. It's like, oh yeah, let's not supply them with
I'm
all this
forgetting
food.
which way around it is, but there's a good analogy for voltage and current, right? And how, so I think voltage is like, if you imagine like a tube of water, the voltage is the pressure, right? And then the current is the amount of, like, the sheer amount of water, the amount of electricity, basically.
We're going down some other part here, but you got Ohm's law, which is voltage, current, and resistance. The current is the amount of water coming out. The voltage is the pressure of that water, and the resistance is kind of like how thin or fat the pipe is. And all of it all comes into play. And we're kind of slightly going off track here about cars. So, but
Electric cars.
electricity.
We're talking about electricity and cars completely separately from each other.
it'd be really interesting to see if in the future we all give all houses 3-phase because of their cars. But I guess why not, right? I mean, I guess in the past we didn't even give houses that electricity anyway, like 1-phase. So did you guys look into the myths about? I mean, like, I spoke to Felix a little bit about the myth of cars not having range. Did you look at any of the other myths?
I did research a fair bit of solar stuff and why we don't have solar powered cars, which is quite interesting.
Go for it.
Can drop a few fun little stats on this for you. So basically, the first one, which is quite a nice one, just to give you an idea of how much solar power there is that basically the entire Earth's annual usage of electricity falls on the Earth with the sun in approximately an hour and 15 minutes. If we manage to get all of that for an hour and 15 minutes, we'd be able to power the entire Earth, which is 190 trillion kilowatt hours, if you're interested.
It would be called Night Day, where they have a huge solar panel across the entire globe. It's like, right, once you're like, everyone's gonna go black, pitch black, go, and then like,
I did
nothing dies.
If they just did it across the Sahara, which apparently there is actually a company that's starting up doing it on the fringes, the outskirts of the Sahara Desert. The sunlight is obviously so strong there that they actually, if they covered the whole Sahara in it, it would be more energy than we'd ever need. You know, it would be just a stupid amount of energy. Like, we wouldn't need it.
With
anyway,
modern solar panels or with future solar panels?
What, the company that's trying to do this, you mean?
Well, it's a great concept if we could capture all of the sun's energy, but like modern solar panels can't even capture 20%.
Oh, that's the thing. Yeah, the 33% is the kind of standard. Like a normal panel has about 33% like sort of efficiency, which is obviously pretty terrible. But basically, so to link this to cars, if you lived in a perfect world, like, you know, the sort of if the maths was just perfect, right?
No, I do, yeah.
Yeah. If the maths was perfect, then just a solar powered car that we just had like this whole roof being a solar thing could drive in sunlight at 62 miles an hour forever, right? Or as long as there's sunlight for the whole day, in a perfect world. However, once you factor in all the other, all of the resistance,
Wind resistance.
the wind, everything that's makes the world not perfect. Do you have a guess what the speed drops to?
I'm gonna shout 15.
5.
Pretty close. 12 miles an hour indefinitely. So about the speed of a horse.
Hey,
Which is also,
we did it before.
Exactly. We go full circle. But yeah, so that's basically why we don't have solar powered cars. But so to get back onto just electric cars more, the quite interesting stuff I sort of found about this is that one of the myths, or the big one, is that we wouldn't have enough energy to do it. Yeah. Whereas that's a complete myth. Basically, it would be a 30% increase in our energy consumption if every single person switched to an electric car tomorrow. It would increase our entire national output of electricity for individuals by 30%. This is done on the States. This stat is from the US. But yeah, so 30% increase, which if we did that, just compounded how we've obviously, we just increase our output of electricity year on year, and has done since like the 1960s, I think they did this from. But if we just kept at the current rate we're going, in 6.5 years, we would have enough. We would then have enough for everyone to have an electric car, assuming obviously, not accounting for.
Oh wow!
For other things. But obviously, there's no way in 6.5 years or 6.5 years that we're going to have that. But yeah, so energy-wise, it's actually pretty doable, and it's certainly a surmountable obstacle. I think the other big difference, which I think is quite interesting, is people's attitude towards it. Because obviously, take America for example, they quite like their cars, So
Well, that's what Felix mentioned. Is I don't know, I can't remember what was in the interview totally right now, but that yes, Americans have a different problem to, let's say, people in England, where
Culture.
Americans need to drive 3 hours in a straight line in order to get somewhere, and it's a bit annoying to fill up for however long to do that. Whereas in England, it's like, yeah, like you said, Johnny, like you only need to drive a couple of 100 miles maximum a day.
I think it comes the one thing of where you have reps at work, and so they'll probably travel like 200 miles a day. So like that's a case of when you're really going to notice having an electric car if it's not up to scratch effectively. One thing for it about a myth was the thing about the CO2 emission of an electric versus a combustion engine. And I think now there was some conflict. There's a study which came out which said is actually like electric cars produce more CO2, but they don't effectively. Well, they've had like conflicting studies, but it's kind of like seeing there was a chart, and you could see like the output of CO2 during the manufacturing across like a combustion engine and loads of electric cars, and it's all about the same. So to build either car is about a similar CO2 output, and then it's just in the what it said called it tailpipe. So effectively, what comes out of the car was just huge for combustion engines and like nothing in electric. So effectively, yeah, they have less CO2. One cool thing is though, if you get a battery for a car from China, it's 60% more CO2 than making a combustion. I think they're making a combustion engine, which is quite funny. So it's a case of, and it's if China used our similar methods of producing batteries, then they could just cut that out. But yeah, it was all about like how cars are made and where we get the sources from. Lithium, we use loads of water to get it. Like for a ton of lithium, we use 500,000 gallons of water. And the main countries are Argentina, Bolivia, and Chile. It's not the worst, but it's a lot of water. For farmers in the area, it just screws them over. And also there's been some case of where sometimes you can have leaching water effectively. But it's cobalt and nickel, whereas they're the doozies of where the mining's actually not too difficult, but the countries it's in are where it's really bad, because then they have like really poor practice management, and then they have like it can release toxins into the air, and like even like uranium and stuff like that. So it's in some, I can't remember what country it was. I think it was in the Congo or something. It was something where a country where effectively it's easy enough for people to do it, but then not too easy for a sense that people can do it and not care about their employees effectively. Just lithium battery disposal isn't up to scratch. It's cheaper to mine it than it is to recycle it, so companies just focus on longer life batteries rather than recycling batteries, which is just funny of like, we can just reuse these batteries. Yeah, but it's cheaper to get it out of the ground again.
Yeah. I actually did a little research on that as well, actually, like the whole, because obviously longer term you need to start thinking about, I think once the batteries drop to like 80 something percent, or even maybe even higher than that, you can't use them in the cars anymore. So there's just all these batteries that are basically fine for other things, but can't be used in the cars. And there's ways that you could install them in, obviously, a solar power grid. They could obviously be used to store solar energy overnight, which is obviously very useful, and you don't need to have a super high performance battery for that. But basically, at the moment, there's the three different things you could do with it: the repurposing, recycling, and remanufacturing. Basically, remanufacturing is the most desirable, but it's the most stringent in terms of battery quality. Recycling is less desirable because there is larger material and less energy losses. And repurposing batteries for a different use lies in between the two in terms of how desirable it is. However, it's obviously it's similarly in between for ease of accessibility to do
I
that.
feel like we should make a company, us guys, right now, for recycling lithium. Just because I did a little bit of research, like you said, about just the recycling part, because I was like, oh, come on. Like, surely that's got to be a big market of recycling the batteries and using... Because isn't lithium some sort of semi-precious element in some cases?
Yeah, I think something like
Do
that.
do you guys want to guess what what percentage of lithium was recycled in 2011 in the EU market? That's the fact I got here.
I don't know, 20.
20%. So a fifth of the lithium out of the batteries that we used was recycled in the EU. Alistair?
I said, well, that's 6.
Alistair's pretty close, but he's still not sad enough. It was 5.
Oh dear.
Oh, jeez.
5% of the lithium in the EU market in 2011 was recycled. And it's just like, the rest, do you know what the rest was? Incinerated or dumped in landfills. It's like, is this, what, are we in the future? Are we going to be, like, reclaiming landfills as, like, excavation sites or something?
Mines,
Surely we're going to
yeah.
need this.
Yeah, we're gonna go Wally style mining for.
I did see it was a BBC 4 on TV, which means it's like your really back end of the TV, and it was like whatever time, and it was about
Ouch.
like landfill and like just general waste in the UK, which is it just sounded riveting. But one thing they said is like the amount of mobile phones, the amount of precious metals which are in every single mobile phone ever is actually not a small amount. If you to take it all out with the amount of phones that we throw away, it's a lot. And it's funny as well how they said it of like you couldn't do it in the UK because it wouldn't be worth the money, but places like India, of where effectively labour's cheap, you could actually get people taking apart phones, getting precious metals out, and then actually reusing them. Because otherwise, you're literally throwing precious metals into the ground again, or when they're hard
That's-
to get.
Can I give you like a crazy point that totally adds to this? I at work, so as many of our listeners probably understand, we're currently going through some sort of pandemic here, and there's a bit of an issue with supply and demand because a lot of places had to close down, and so it made a huge I don't know a better word than clot in the system of taking stuff, preparing it, and then making it into some sort of like, it could be, let's say, metal for boxes, wood for scaffolding, wood for structures, steel for scaffolding, blah, blah, blah. The people at work were telling me, Freddie, it's actually worth you right now stripping the cables for there's we got wire, like a whole huge multiple ton pile of wire, and usually we just send it off to the metal people who collect it all and use the copper and sell it, and they pay you per kg, right? It's actually become worth me, a like semi-trained engineer, to sit and strip the wire of its plastic to sell it for higher cost because it's pure copper rather than copper that has to be burnt. And I'm like, I have better things to do. And they're like, yeah, but Freddie, it's actually worth it now. Like, we've hit that point where it's worth you stripping the
You're
wire.
getting a promotion
and
to stripper.
The
Of what?
amount of
Yeah,
copper you
exactly,
use is
stripper.
more than you pay.
Oh, man. I'm like, that kind of hurts, but also welcome to the future, I guess.
Yeah. One little avenue which is I got well excited about because I've heard about different batteries, lithium. So one cool thing is they're trying to get lithium out of the ocean because there's loads of lithium in the ocean, but it's like it's not cheap at all. So it's just cheaper to mine it. So, but it's quite cool that they're trying to. But one cool thing is salt batteries. I was like, what, salt batteries? And I found a way of where they
For cars?
instead of lithium, using salt for batteries. And so they found it was February 2021, Nottingham University and China. I mean, it just says China. I mean, what about China?
That's probably university.
Nottingham University has a campus in China.
Oh, does it?
That might be why, yeah. It does.
Well, colour me silly. That's cool. Oh, that's something new. But they've been developing salt batteries. And without getting too technical, effectively they would have molten salt which you use, but they've now changed it to soft solid salt, and that stores energy apparently as well as a lithium battery, and it's chargeable as well, which is the biggest thing. Some different materials you can get, they can store energy, but you can't recharge them up. They're spent after the one use. And but yeah, and molten salt is currently used on wide scale in Spain and China, and that's what it does, is it captures and stores solar heat and to then use it later. So this battery will be able to do both. So it's able to both keep store energy as a battery does, and also apparently capture solar heat or something like that.
So guys, you heard it here first. Go out, get a supermarket, stockpile salt, fill up your farmers' fields with it. Just
And it's
nothing grows.
It's weapon salt, isn't it? So it's apparently super exciting, and like you're getting rid of that lithium need and the mining and everything like that, which is just incredible. The salt. I mean, like salt.
Can I just chuck out here? Like, I mean, not to be like a bit of a chemistry nerd, but did you check that the salt it's talking about is sodium chloride? Because there are lots of salts.
That's true. I'll look at
Because
it right
like,
oh wait, sorry. This thing. No one did dismiss the fact. Oh, should we just carry on mining this stuff out the ground when we could just be using salt? Nah, mate. We're just gonna, we won't bother testing if salt works. That would be a waste of time.
Like when you just one example is whenever you add an acid to a base, it produces water and salt. But the acid doesn't have to be sodium chloride. Sodium hydroxide. If you add sodium hydroxide, then yes, you'll make salt, as in sodium chloride salt. But if you add, I don't know, hydrofluoric acid, it's not making the same salt. It's making a different type of salt.
It is sodium.
Okay, that's good. If it is sodium,
I think it is sodium. For sodium-ion batteries. Yeah, Freddie, have you got anything extra which you little truth nuggets you want to be dropping on or not?
Just the tiny little truth nugget that you spoke about. You asked us in the future was about. It's not just about electric cars, just that electric planes and electric other stuff. And as Felix mentioned, potentially that's not a viable solution in the future. I mean, especially batteries being incredibly heavy. Planes don't like things that are heavy. Like, it might be a different solution in the future, but the future is changing and technology is advancing.
Yeah, because I did see one of them. It was a thing of where avian industry emitted 1 billion tons of CO2 in 2019, which is about 2.5% of global emissions. And to put into scale, it's nearly the same amount as the entire South American continent in CO2 in a year, just planes. But so yeah, the best. It was really cool how it described it. The best batteries only have energy of 250 watts an hour per kilogram, and we really need for planes 800 watts an hour per kilogram to get flying. And to give an idea, that jet fuel is 12,000 watts per hour per kilogram. So that's like batteries are heavy, fuel is light. But Vancouver Magronix, they retrofitted a 62-year-old plane. And they had a 15-minute test flight in December 2019, which made it the first all-electric commercial flight. But yeah, the engine is light, the batteries are heavy, and the way they describe it is kind of imagining an 80s computer. So they're massive, they don't have a lot of computing power, but they are heavy and big, and that's what it's like now. So it could be in the future batteries do thin out and get better.
Well, one quick thing to sort of add to this, and as a little sort of fun fact for the listeners, just in terms of like the speed at which we're now progressing with things, technology-wise. Basically, the horse and chariot was the fastest mode of transport for 3,400 years, right? And then, obviously, once things started moving a bit, the first flight was obviously the Wright brothers, and then 66 years after that, we put men on the moon. So it is definitely progressing at some speed.
Yeah, and
not
now
to
for
mention like
$250,000, you can get commercial space travel for tourism.
And now for probably, what was it? I don't know, like 15 grand, you can have a Kawasaki HS2 or something that goes 400 kilometers an hour. And it's like, oh, okay.
Is that 250 miles per hour?
Madness. So you can just sit on that crotch rocket. Yeah, electric bikes is a different conversation.
Yeah, they made a new electric bike. When you're talking about wind resistance, they made a new electric bike. It's got a massive hole in it. Because they said you can't. There's only so fast you can go on a motorbike because humans are really big and noisy for wind. So we slow it down. So they found a way, put a big hole in the middle of a bike, and then it gets a bit faster. We forgot about one of the best times of the week. It's the facts. So we're gonna be about hot, spicy fungi. It's radiotrophic fungi discovered in Chernobyl site 1991 as plants and cyanobacteria use green pigment chlorophyll to synthesize sugars by deriving energy from the sunlight. This fungus uses melanin, and that's found in our skin for pigment, and it's to power sugar-producing reactions by deriving energy from nuclear decay. So basically, the mold has the most extreme tan ever, which it uses to eat radiation. Apparently, it's been found on low-orbit spacecraft, and these looking into it to be used as radiation protectors for astronauts. How mad is that? It's fungus, it's a mold, and it's really dark, and it eats radiation.
That also gets the energy from it. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and they find it in low-orbit stuff, and they're thinking about using it for protection from radiation. Like, right, how do we stop radiation? Really thick suits, or what about putting mold on it which eats radiation? I mean, just mad. Just mad. I mean, granted, everything's radiation like sunlight, but it's a different nuclear radiation. Cool.
I was going to tell you what, sun cream, investing in sun cream companies, yeah.
Fungus.
I wear sun cream every day now. I'm trying to anyway. Just put that there.
You'll thank yourself in 30 years, mate.
Anyway, so we'll wrap it up there. So thank you, guys. Thank you, listeners. Thank you, me. That's been Electric Vehicles. Hopefully you've learned a little bit more. We definitely have. And that's all for this week. Thank you, me, Johnny, Alistair, and Freddie. This has been No Idea Yet. Thank you all. And thank you for listening to No Idea Yet. If you like the show, you can also follow us on Instagram. It's No Idea Yet Podcast. If you have any comments, information you thought we missed, or recommendations for the future, drop us an email on noideayetpodcast@gmail.com. And if there's anything, feel free to like, subscribe. I don't know how podcasts will work, but go for it. Stay tuned every Saturday when we drop a new episodes, and thank you for listening.